Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 73, The Power in Changing What You Can. So as you know, all month, we're talking about gratitude and letting go. I think November is a good month for that. And I know even though it may be really difficult sometimes to feel grateful right now, especially if you're struggling, I think focusing on letting go of all that we can't control and instead throwing our energy and passion into what we can is life-changing, even if it doesn't feel like it that day or in the moment. So this week, I want to talk about just that. Having your feelings around what's scary and or maybe awful, and then shifting your focus on what you can do today. Okay, so we've heard this a million times and we know it's the right thing to do, but why is it sometimes so hard to do? Like, why are some of us more resistant than others? The first thing I want to bring up, and I know I've touched on this before, but if you grew up in situations where when you were a child, you didn't have a whole lot of power to change anything or make anything better or make anything different, there were a lot of things that were difficult, scary, chaotic, upsetting, angering, out of your control. It's going to be really hard for you to have that template in your head and in your heart that you can trust the right people to do the right things to make it all better. That you can have faith in the process of people figuring it out, of your parents taking care of grown-up things that you had no power to change. And hopefully they weren't the ones who inflicted this pain upon you. So we need to have a template of trust. It's Erikson's first developmental stage, trust versus mistrust. I think that whether we're a human or an animal, those early years can be so imprinting in terms of feeling safe, feeling protected, and trusting that things will be okay. You can also have situations later in life that are traumatic and that rip the rug out from underneath of you. Betrayal comes to mind, an accident, a tragic loss. That can really hinder your desire, let's say, to just let go and let things happen and trust the process. Because here's the thing, we want to focus out there, and when I mean out there, I mean all the nouns outside of your own skin. The people, the places, the things, the circumstances, the events. Because we don't want to feel so helpless and scared. We're afraid if we let go, it'll be worse. It'll be awful. We'll be abandoned. We won't be able to handle it is the big fear underneath of that. It's our perception. So we just want to create that illusion because control is an illusion. We know that. That if we just do something, if we just stop them from doing it, if we just convince people of the right thing, if we just help, if we do everything we can to rescue just this once, to give them a hand up, if we give them a chance, if we change the laws, if we do this and we do that, we can make it okay. We don't like not having control. Now, I want to parse out here. Of course, we need to do the right thing at the right times. Sometimes we do need to fight for laws to be changed. Sometimes we do need to fight for justice. We do need to step in when a child is being bullied, or someone is being hurt or harmed, or not looked out for, or marginalized by society. But I think the difference is what's within our actual control and what isn't. And today we're talking about letting go of things outside of our control. We can't make people think or feel or do or choose or change. We can't make events unhappen. We can't make reality different than what it is right now in the moment. But what we can do is do things differently today within our control to maybe help make things better tomorrow. The environment comes to mind for me because I hear so many times from people in my life, well, is it too late? Is there anything I can do? Does me recycling make any difference, or composting, or not buying bottled water, or things like that? And my answer is, if each of us did those small pieces, it would be a game changer. If each of us stopped buying single-use plastic, for example, and voted on things in our communities and in our world that promoted fighting climate change, we could make a very big difference. So if you can't control nouns out there, what can you control, right? Well, let's talk about that for a little bit, because I think it's important. Just like Covey's circles that I talked about last time, sometimes it feels like your circle of yourself, what is within your control, can at times feel like it's so small and you just don't have any personal power. I think it's extremely helpful to think about the things we actually do have some really wonderful control over and some power to choose and to change. The first thing you have control over is what you focus your thinking on. Maybe not what enters your mind, right? What keeps popping into your head, especially when you're trying to fall asleep at night, or the things that won't leave, but you can be more intentional. And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to give that a lot of energy. I'm not going to obsess about that. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to try to think about what's in front of me, something good, something positive, perhaps something you have on your plate to do right now, maybe what you were in the middle of trying to get done. You can be more intentional. You can't control your thinking, so to speak, I guess. There's probably a lot of controversy around that, but I think we can really try to not obsess and to change our focus. I think part of the answer to this, to get out of the swirl of thinking, is to allow yourself to feel what you're avoiding feeling. If you're obsessing, you're avoiding feeling. Feelings are messy, they're scary, and you might not think that you can do it, that you can access them. And a lot of people tell me, well, what point is that? What point is it, Mary, for me to get upset or to get angry or whatever? And I say, because you need to honor whatever is going on emotionally on the inside, or it will run you. Trust me. You will leak it out. You will obsess. You will be anxious. Your body will play it out. We've talked about that. So take a moment to try to honor maybe your anger, your hurt, your sadness, and then dig down and try to identify the fear or fears underneath. You'll notice your anxiety will come down. You'll feel not great, but you'll feel more grounded, because you are grounded in your truth, because you're no longer ignoring or denying what you feel. You're just honoring it, and you're not making yourself feel bad for what you feel or righteous. You just feel it. It just is, and it makes sense. If you had something really disappointing happen this week, you're going to probably hit the wall and say no, I don't want to accept that reality. And maybe you're sad and disappointed. Maybe you're afraid a better opportunity won't come along. Maybe you're mad at yourself. Maybe people you love let you down. And whatever meanings we attach to that, that's what's bothering us the most. It's not so much often what happened or what they did or didn't do, is what it means. Does it mean I can't trust them? Does it mean they're not responsible? Does it mean that they don't care about the thing that I really care about? Here comes that fear. And remember, no one gets to tell you what to feel or what to do with those feelings. I think a lot of the reason why some people will get into anxiety and not feel versus the next person is because over their life, they were ridiculed, shamed, belittled, raged at, ignored when they expressed their feelings. And they stopped accessing and trusting what they feel. They've disowned it, so to speak. You've heard me talk about that. No wonder they're anxious. They're fighting themselves. And reaccessing parts of you is the best thing you can do. And it's not like you're going to stay angry and in resentment, because if you allow yourself to grieve, you're not going to stay stuck in what's called protracted grief. I think resentment is a lot of unresolved grief, which means I haven't really worked through all the vulnerable feelings. That's really the only way to forgiveness and peace. So what you feel, honoring what you feel, let yourself sit in the feelings for a moment. Don't run from them. Have compassion around it. Validate yourself, like, no wonder I'm feeling this way. Maybe journal it out. Talk to a trusted, healthy person so they can validate how you feel. Remember, what you feel is separate from what you're going to do or not do. Make sure you tease that out. That's what maturity calls for. When we were kids, it was all jumbled up together, and so we just lashed out and acted it out and projected our stuff onto other people. Today, you can separate out how you feel from what you do. Another thing you have control over is what you choose to believe, and that's a choice. Now, like we've talked about before, a lot of times we're not very conscious about what we really believe and what we value, even though those beliefs are driving the bus, whether we are aware of it or not. Thoughts are things, beliefs make them so over time is the phrase. We can absorb the beliefs of our parents, of those around us. They might be based on what has happened to us. Like if bad things happen to you a lot, you may think that life is unfair to you, you've been singled out, you can't trust life to be good, that kind of thing. What you believe, though, I think can greatly impact your ability to let go. You know, folks who believe that life is not good and life is a constant struggle and life is hard and I should suffer and I should not let go and relax because something bad's going to happen. A lot of clients share who have trauma in their past that they're waiting for the other shoe to drop because it often does. You know, those are beliefs that drive how we think and what we feel and what we do. And especially I've noticed that clients who struggle to have any kind of spirituality in terms of believing that something greater than themselves will take care of the things that are not within their control. That maybe there's a greater purpose. Maybe things are happening for a reason. If you struggle to believe something like that, then you have no recourse than to think that you are in charge and you must make outcomes happen because you can't trust that anything else is going to be different unless you take control. So you must be the end-all, be-all and run the universe. So of course, everything will come back to you. You will blame yourself. You will be in constant anxiety, I imagine. That's exhausting. Trying to make everything happen and unhappen. Do you believe people are good? That life is worth living, that love matters, that kindness and inclusion matter, that you can do anything you set your mind to, that people deserve compassion, that people are there to help you and love you, or do you believe otherwise? So your beliefs are something to examine for sure. I think that's an ongoing process for us. And you can choose what you want to believe, even if you don't have evidence. I know for myself, I have to believe that there is a greater good, that there is a higher purpose, or I wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning some days. I choose to believe that. Do I have constant evidence of that? No. But I think I've had enough evidence to rest in that belief and not want to let that go. So your beliefs are driving everything that you do and say. You get to choose what you believe. You have control over that. It's kind of powerful when you think about it. And speaking of choosing, what you choose is within your control, and at every nanosecond we are choosing. Even with a gun to my head, I have a choice. You've heard me say, not a great set of choices, but I have a choice. There's so much that you can choose. I could talk all day, but even today you made a million little choices that you may not even be aware of. And I want you to refocus on them. There's a lot you have choice over, even when it feels like big things are happening that you can't control. You can choose, number one, your self-care. You can't put this on anyone else. This is your responsibility to take care of yourself. Go back and listen to the episode on self-care if you're not really sure what that is. Some people think it's just a spa day. It's not. That's included. That's good nurturing. Self-care means taking care of what belongs to us. Taking care of our bodies, taking care of our minds and our spirits, taking care of business, getting things done. Because the more nurtured and centered and focused you are, the more empowered you're going to feel. And so if you're fighting yourself, if you're procrastinating, not getting things taken care of, not taking care of yourself, not resting when you need to, having laughter, having peace, having solitude, having connection, having love, having fun, planning, dreaming of the future, all this stuff, it's all self-care. When we're not exercising that because we're too busy and too caught up in what's going on out there, I think it really increases our anxiety. It increases our feeling of powerlessness, and not in a good way. We've abandoned ourselves. And you know the rule of thumb by now if you've been listening. When I abandon myself, I'm going to look out there and get really pissed that I feel abandoned by people, places, and things out there. You choose your boundaries. What you say yes to and what you say no to. What you don't allow in your life anymore. That you have control over. The more toxic you get away from you, the better it's going to feel. Get manipulation away from you, you're going to feel so much more grounded and peaceful and a lot less anxious. Saying no to yourself, that's self-discipline. Maybe to save money, maybe to eat better, maybe to walk more, maybe to get better rest, maybe to stay more organized. You're going to feel more grounded because you're honoring you and you're saying no to being lazy, right? Procrastinating, sabotaging yourself, accepting reality. That's what boundaries are all about. It's like, oh, now that's the crux of it all, isn't it? If I can let go, it means, therefore, that I am coming to acceptance of reality. And that's a process. Everything we're talking about today, guys, is a process. It's getting up and putting one foot in front of the other and doing the best you can. You choose your values. You have control over what your values are. Again, another wonderful place of exploration. We should often reevaluate them too, because we can change. We can grow into new values. As we grow, we change. We become more open. We usually become more mature, more compassionate, more organized, more grounded. You don't find a lot of rigidity in people who do the work. Rigidity is self-protective and fear-based. What you do find are people more humble, open, and teachable, and passionate about what they value, yes, but not in fear. And they're not afraid when other people don't value that. You get to choose whether you ask for help or not. This is a big one. Asking healthy people for help. Not taking control of everything. Not hanging on the cross and doing it all. Not martyring, in other words. Asking for help in healthy ways helps you feel connected, helps you feel less alone. You can trust more. You're not fighting yourself because half of you is exhausted and the other half is just trying to get everything done. And it gives you time to take care of yourself. You get to choose who you want to show love to and who you may love but can't hang out with. That's very, very powerful. You can choose how you want to show love today. All the big and little ways. It's a wonderful thing to think about. Even if you're having a crappy day, every 5 minutes you get a new chance to kind of look at it differently. You can get out of your own head and make sure someone in your life knows that you care about them and you see them and you're interested. You get to choose how much you listen. We're all bad at listening, me included. Stopping, being, and just listening. It's kind of hard to obsess and control in your head and be emotionally present. The big one, how you behave. You get to decide how mature you want to be in any given moment, even if you're not feeling that way so much on the inside, and you'd love to act out and rip someone's head off, but you choose not to. You get to choose today how kind and loving or grace-giving or compassion-giving that you are. You decide that. No one gets to choose that for you. Do you react or do you respond? You get to decide whether you want to lash out in fear or anger, or take a deep couple of breaths and be softer in your approach, but with good boundaries. Kindness and boundaries are a wonderful combination. You get to choose how you want to see yourself. Maybe you don't want to be as anxious and miserable anymore. Maybe you'd like to feel a little happier, a little more joyful, or even just content and peaceful and kind and open. You get to decide who you want to become, because you can change you. You may not be able to change everything out there, but you can change you. You can refocus on the small steps today that'll keep you in alignment with that person you are becoming. That feels really good when we can do that. We feel congruent, we feel we make sense, and we feel that we are at least are honoring ourselves. You get to choose what your intentions are. Now, walking into a room or a situation, of course, we have no control over the outcome, but we certainly can control what we intend. And when we set a loving intention, more often than not, unless something tragic happens, we follow through on that and we can feel really good about it. It's really interesting. I think it's because we're less reactive and more intentional, right? If I'm reactive, I'm letting someone else's behavior or events out there determine how I'm going to act in this moment or in the next hour or the next part of the day. But if I'm more in charge of that, it's pretty damn powerful. I feel more glued together and with some healthy control. You get to decide what you hope for, regardless of what's going on today. You get to choose that. Or you can let other people steal your hope and steal your joy. And finally, you get to choose how positive you want to be. Even if you're more comfortable with cautiously optimistic, that's fine. You get to decide whether you mire in misery and hopelessness and feeling resentment and despair, or you can honor your sadness and your hurt and your anger and choose to at least not be part of the problem, to at least focus on things that you can look forward to, things that feel good. So those are some examples of things that you have control over. Essentially, what you think, choose, feel, do, believe, how you behave. There's a lot there, and we tend to forget that because we get so caught up in what's going on out there. So the big thing about all of this is this sounds great, right? You know all this anyway, but it's all about practice, and it's all about daily practices. That's what this boils down to. Again, one of my favorite quotes is you can't think your way into a new way of living. You have to live your way into a new way of thinking. In other words, you got to practice, and weeks go by, and then finally it hits you like, wow, this feels better. I feel a lot more sane, but it takes a while. This is not for those with immediate gratification needs. There's little immediate gratification. Might be a little bit if you clean out the closet, it looks great. But I mean in general, it takes a while for things to shift. And it's one of those things that every day you get up, you have to be intentional about it. So practice. So one of the first things we want to practice, of course, is healthy, loving detachment. Go back to the boundaries and detachment episodes if you're not quite sure what that is. The phrase that I use often is just because they doesn't mean I. You kind of pull it apart. Just because they, just because it, just because life, fill in the blank, doesn't mean I. I can be different. Just because they don't want to change doesn't mean I don't think maybe they should. Maybe life could be different. Maybe I want to be different. It's okay. Detach. It's not within my power to change them or it or life. That's your mantra. First, detach. What's about them? What's about me? That's about them. What's about me? They're acting out. What's about me is I'm sad and I'm hurt and I'm disappointed and I'm confused. Do you see how I separated those things out? And then you focus on your feelings. Let yourself feel. Let yourself feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the fear. Journal it, cry, share with a friend. Guys, this is the real truth underneath all of that anxiety. The fear that the feelings are going to swallow you, but they won't. Ignoring them, though, I can guarantee you, will cause big issues. They're going to create a bigger thought swirl. Your anxiety is going to increase. Your depression is going to increase. Your body's going to play it out. So letting yourself feel. The third thing we want to focus on is, okay, wait a minute. What's more important than maybe the outcome that I want right now? What about your integrity? How you handle things, maybe. At least you can be proud of that. Maybe loving your kids in the here and now, regardless of what they're doing or not doing. Maybe refocusing on what matters most, because I think it helps bring us back to the present and back to owning and honoring our choices. What we will regret 10 years from now is not really what went on out there. It's how we handled it. The fourth thing is practice coming back to the here and now in this moment. Do you ever notice when time goes by, you get all caught up in something and you get so distracted and maybe even get into the trance of thinking about them or it or life or whatever? Like having conversations in your head that haven't happened. I hear that so much from clients. Trying to control the fantasy in your head, how you're going to talk to them, what you're going to say, all this stuff. And an hour just went by and you just lost that hour or part of the day, or you're up till 3 a.m., whatever. Bring it back to now. Try to get physically grounded. That's why getting back in your body means something. Focus on your breath, get tactile, put your hands on your knees, touch the chair, get grounded, put your feet on the floor. I'm here. Notice things in the room. Oh, that's the lamp. That's the chair. Oh, it's warm in here. Okay, I'm sitting here. It sounds really simple and maybe awkward and silly at first, but it works. Keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You bring yourself back to the here and now. Remember, when we're up in our head and in the future and in the past, we're not present. We've disassociated, basically. What about what's right in front of you? Oh, yeah, that's right. I was typing that thing. Or maybe my kid has asked me 3 times for something that they need. Try to get back into, okay, what's in front of me? What's in front of me? What's in front of me? You have to keep smacking the side of your face probably 50 times today and do it, and that's okay. You're going to refocus and retrain your brain. 5, get back to priorities and stay in your why. Okay, I'm upset about what happened yesterday, but what's in front of me today? Why is it more important right now? Getting back to you and what matters to you is what matters most. 6, I think it's really fun to generate a list from those priorities that you just thought about and create some really cool possibilities. You know, and you don't have to know that these things are going to happen exactly as you list them. Who cares? But you have some choice and you have some hope when you have the power of possible. It is so amazing. So there's a really cool article on tinybuddha.com, and I've included the link in the show notes, about 50 things that you can control right now. So that's a lot of fun, and it might, get you started if you can't think of things to think about. But I think this generates the perception of possible and things that you can feel good about doing, feel good about choosing, about owning, and therefore owning your power. 7, I think practicing some new mantras really helps. As we've talked about many times here about the subconscious only knows what it sees, hears, and experiences over time. So you have to form new beliefs and new thinking patterns. That will affect you not only cognitively, but emotionally too. It reminds me of a quote from Melody Beattie. She says, letting go helps us to live in a more peaceful state of mind and helps restore our balance. It allows others to be responsible for themselves and for us to take our hands off situations that do not belong to us. This frees us from unnecessary stress. Unnecessary in terms of we can't do anything about it. So here are some mantras that you can use, and I encourage you to come up with your own that feel right for you. But here's an idea. The first one is, I am learning to let go more each day. Do you hear how that statement is a process statement? I haven't mastered it. I'll never master it perfectly. Every day I get better and better. So if I screwed it up yesterday or all week, who cares? I can get back on the horse and try again. I am patient and forgiving of myself today. I'm growing into that, right? And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're there. It means that you're telling your brain that you're already there, so it thinks it's possible. It's going to help you get there. Letting go will help me feel calmer. See, there's some evidence your subconscious needs to hear. It needs some good reason to let go, or it's not gonna. I don't want to be a miserable person who isn't living because they're so caught up in fear. I don't want that. I no longer allow fear to run my life. Love, hope, and joy are in its place today. That's what I focus on. I am learning to let life unfold moment by moment, just as it should. I am learning to be more loving and present and enjoy the little moments that crack me up, bring tears to my eyes, or are just profound. I cannot make you want something you don't want yet. I can only look in the mirror and ask myself the same. Am I wanting what's best for me? I want serenity in my life today, and I won't allow others to steal it from me anymore. And finally, I am learning my lessons as I go, and I'm learning to allow others to do the same. So some good mantras for you and whatever others that you want to write yourself, if you want to focus on quotes or whatever works for you. Know yourself, whatever works for you. So you're changing your brain and you're changing your thinking over time. Okay, so just as gratitude is really healthy for us, letting go is really good for our relationships. I can tell you as a counselor and a coach, oh yeah, game changer. Why? Because you're less controlling and you're less anxious and you're less stressed out and therefore easier to be around. When you're not grounded within yourself, you're making everyone else anxious around you. You know, it's that thing where when you're in it, it's one thing, but being on the other side of someone who's upset and freaking out and stressed out and ruminating and spiraling, it's so hard. It's good for your relationships because when you express your genuine letting go, even if you're just trying to let go, people feel more respected. They have room to breathe and choose, as do you. It's what we all want. And they're actually going to start owning more of their stuff, figuring it out, maybe not perfectly the way you would want them to, but they will get into solving mode because you're no longer carrying it. You took your hands off of it and you stopped giving them the message that they're incompetent and incapable and immature and all that stuff. When we give people the vibe that we hold them lovingly accountable, but that they can figure it out, outside of someone being too heavily addicted or clinically depressed or psychopathic, they're going to figure it out because we all want to feel better. We all want to do better. But we all kind of need to get the vibe from those around us that they see that that's possible for us because change is scary and change is hard. You know that. I think it's better for your relationships because you're modeling healthy behavior. Especially to your kids, your partner, and your coworkers. You even make a difference at the grocery store when you're more relaxed and emotionally present. You're nicer to people in line. You're more patient. You also are going to have more compassion because you're more detached. You're not a stakeholder in their choices anymore, even the guy taking so long in front of you in line. you can let it go a lot better. So letting go also helps you have better physical and psychological health. Like we talked about last week, you're a hell of a lot less anxious, your blood pressure is lower, less illness because of less stress. You're going to feel more rested. You're going to be able to sleep better, all of that. So letting go means practicing better boundaries, refocusing on what you need to accept, come to acceptance, no matter how long it takes you, and what is not your business and not yours to try to change. Working on your detachment 1,000 times a day if necessary. Remember that phrase, that's about them, it, or life. What's about me? There's nothing else you can do to affect an outcome. However, the daily things you do to take care of yourself and do good in your relationships in the world, you actually are creating better outcomes down the road. Here's the kicker, we just don't have control over when and how and where. But it is really neat to see when you have the opportunity to see the effects that you had. And maybe you just started a chain of events, who knows? But here's the thing, we don't always get to see the connections, to see the result, and that's okay. And we can learn to be okay with that because what's more important is that we can look back and feel good about what we have tried and what we have done. So try to get lost in the present. Try to take it on as a fun internal challenge, to engage without so much distraction. Challenge yourself in loving ways to focus on listening. Yes, really listening and connecting to others. Just notice when you're out for a walk today. Just notice something funny, adorable, admirable about people you love. And note the gratitude for that. So getting good at this means daily practice, loving accountability from others. Tell a few trusted friends that you're working on this and they'll hold your feet to the fire. In other words, they're not going to let you bitch and moan and play victim as much anymore, now are they? And that's a good thing. You may not like them some days when they say, hey, what are you doing? But you'll love them later for it. Getting good at it means beginning again and again and again. It means self-care and self-love to help you feel safe, nurtured, in control, and grounded. So today we talked about letting go, how it sounds so easy, yet can be so scary. We explored how allowing ourselves to grieve and then refocus on what we actually have control over is how we get our sense of peace back. Because here's the thing. Deep down, we damn well know we have no control over what's out there anyway, no matter what we try to say to ourselves. So therefore, we can never really relax or exhale, right? Because as long as that's where our focus is on something we know we really can't control, how can you relax? So practice. Be nice to yourself. Journal, walk, meditate, and breathe. Incorporate this as a part of daily life. And notice how it starts to feel better bit by bit over time. Thank you for joining me today. May you find peace. May you find moments to be in the moment. Stay grounded, hold on to hope, love each other, and try to just be. Be sure to check out the show notes at ownitpowercast.com to sign up for the newsletter each Tuesday if you don't already have it. That's where you get the bonus downloads and find out what's going on. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.